A lot of people are more afraid of the angel they don't know, but they're less afraid of the devil that they do know. So you're more afraid of the unknown that could get you to a higher place, but you're more comfortable with the evil that you just sit in.
What's the word, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today we got a very special guest in the building, coming from LA. Man, publisher, DJ, dancer, done some A&R work. You do a lot.
See, now that you say it out loud, I didn't think about all that. I do a lot.
But I was watching your Terry Roseland interview, and you stated like 100 different things. I was like, I'm taking down notes. I'm like, I need that one, that one, that one. But I mean, you just recently rocked Lollapalooza over at the Bacardi stage.
I did.
You've done All-Star Weekend. You've done New York Fashion Week. You just did the Sky Game, right?
Yes, I did. Shout out to What's the Word. Shout out to the Sky. That was fun. That was my first. That was my second time DJing for the Sky. But that was my first time being on like that type of platform with the spotlight, being center court. I've actually never been on a basketball court, like a professional basketball court. So that was my first time like being on a professional basketball court, performing on a court. And all I was thinking to myself, damn, I hope they can hear me because I can't hear anything I'm playing right now. I'm just going, what? No, I thought it sounded like an echo in my ear. I had my headphones in so I could hear the music. But as a DJ, what I like to do is I have one headphone in and I'll have like maybe my right ear out. Like I won't have anything out because I want to hear what it sounds like, what they hear. And it's so funny because we didn't do a sound check. It was very much so like, okay, you're on. I was like, oh shit. Cool. We go up. I'm thinking the sound gonna be booming. I press play. I said, damn, I can't hear it. So I'm literally not troubleshooting, but I'm literally like, let me adjust my volume, let me woo. And my spirit was just like, Ashley, just go. Don't worry about it, just go. So then we just took off running. And
What they tell you afterwards?
oh, I went around and asked. I said, did I sound crazy? Because I don't want to sound crazy. Don't embarrass me. And they was like, and everybody who recorded it said that they could hear it pretty well, but they heard me on the mic more. And they were like, they appreciated that fact that I was on the mic because it helped them focus on what was happening. You know what I mean? I think the Sky, what they've done this season, as far as like even in entertainment, they had Dirk perform there, and they had other Chicago greats be there. They have a lot of people from Chicago culture that's there, creation team, footwork halftime. I think the stuff that the Sky Association team is doing to actually bring attention to the women league in Chicago is like great. It's really cool because before, number one, them tickets before was like $20, if that. Now you got tickets going $3.50 a pop. You know what I'm saying? That was the Caitlin Clark and Andrews game that I had DJ'd. And to see a year transformation like that shows like a lot of credibility to what the Sky Association is doing and what they continue to do to bring Chicago talent, to bring the culture into the stadium. So if you're not from Chicago and you're seeing it, you're like, okay, this is what it's like. This is the city. This is Chicago.
And I think that's something good that like overall the Chicago community has done is gathering around the organization and being willing to participate in activities like that, right? Because there's a lot of people who they might look at the Sky, or because of how the WNBA has been looked at for so long, they could look at it as like, I don't really need that opportunity. But they're looking at it as an opportunity to bring them up as well as bring that attraction. And it's another attraction for the city.
It's a statement. It's a statement in the league. It's a statement in the sports world. Because you think about it, one of the highest, one of the players that have the most attention in the league right now is Angel Reese, right? And to have her be a Chicago Sky athlete, right? To be a member of the team, she doesn't only represent herself, where she come from, but she represents the city now, right? And if you see her play on the court, you see the aggression. You see the passion that she has when she plays a sport. It's the same passion, aggression that the people of the city have when they do whatever their sport is, whether that's music, whether that's writing, whether that's an art, whether that's industrial, whatever it is, right? It's the same passion and aggression. I think it was a perfect match for the city. And I believe when people come see these games, they don't only see a team flowing together, playing together, doing what they do best, but they see a reflection of Chicago. And this is like, okay, this is the grit of the city.
And what you said makes so much sense because it really did seem like a perfect match, right? Like just the way that she plays and the way she carries herself, it's very Chicago.
It's so Chicago. Like, you would have thought that she literally was raised, like she went to school out here and just got part of the league. And it's a beautiful thing to see people see like athletes like that really adapt to their new home and like soar in it. That's like a testament. So I was proud to be part of the night. It was Barbie night. So shout out to Mattel. It was great.
You didn't have pink that day?
I didn't.
No.
You know what's
You
crazy?
kept the green?
Yeah, I'm always gonna have green hair. Even my hair right now, you got the green and black streaks. I'm always gonna have green hair. I tried to have pink. I really did. But all my stuff is still in LA. So I was like, oh, I don't have any pink. And I literally tried for days to find, oh, let me find something pink. And then I realized, I said, well, you know what? Green and pink match. They go together in a way.
You had the Fairly Odd Parents going on?
I was Cosmo. Everybody else was on their Wanda vibe. So, you know, it was all a happy day.
So we still haven't even introduced you, right? You always bring that pure energy. Introduce yourself.
Oh my gosh. Putting me under the spotlight. Okay, well, I go by the name of NOSIKE, the DJ. Pure energy for short. I think I'm gonna change my name.
What does that mean? What's the significance behind pure energy?
When I started DJing, better yet, when I was a kid, my family was a family of immigrants. So I'm Nigerian, like full-blooded. My mom and my dad, they came to the States to birth me, right? And that was what? I'm 29, so 29 years ago. And you know, they came with my grandmother. When I was a kid, my grandmother would always say that I had like a burst of energy. Like I would dance to school and dance back home for any reason, right? My mom, my dad, you know, traditional Nigerian parents, they were like, yeah, you got to do medicine, law, you know, the hard-hitting stuff, right? When you were a kid, you want to do what your parents say because you want to make your parents proud, right? So I'm like, okay, you know, I try it. But it never clicked. I was like, I would excel in math and I would do pretty good in science and research, but it would never click for me to like do the pre-med, right? I even got accepted to U of I as the college I graduated from, University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, on a pre-med program. Honey, when I tell you them chem classes, them 8 a.m. classes, what? No, the 8 a.m. chem classes. I was the girl that came to those 8 a.m. chem classes at 8:55. Class ended at 9.
5 minutes before.
Yeah, I came to class 5 minutes before the bell rang to go. I was that girl, but it didn't resonate with me. And then that's when I realized I was forcing something that wasn't in me. That was that energy. The energy that I had in me is really a light, right? And I believe I said this on another interview earlier this year, but it's true. Each of us have a particular light that makes us unique, makes us special, makes us shine different than the other, right? And we can't really put our finger on it sometimes because it's just something that we know that I have this and nobody else has, right? And when we are in our purest form, so that is a form without any added things, any added accessories, anything extra. When we're at the purest version of our true self, that energy is what we radiate, right? And for me, when I perform on stage, rather, that's when I noticed that was like close to the purest form of myself. That energy I have on stage from dancing. Y'all seen it before. I'm that girl. I would get from behind the booth and party with y'all in the crowd. Try to see what y'all doing. Try to turn up with y'all. You know what I mean? Or I'll take the mic. I'll sing with y'all, karaoke style. We going back and forth. Like, that always was something for me that I never planned. It just came instinctively. So pure energy is like raw, it's authentic, it's real, it's the version of you at the purest possible state. Because that state is the most contagious state. That state is when people actually look and they're like, dang, who is that? That state is what resonates with other people energy. And it makes them want to like attract.
Why stylize it the way you do? It's NRG, right?
It's because I didn't like the way it was spelled with an E. And I felt like the original way, ENRGY, was too long. And then I was like, man, how do I make this shorter? Like, when does it make sense? I feel like it was just too long. And then I was like, okay, NRG. I was like, okay. Originally, it was actually NRGY at first. And then I didn't like the Y. So then that's when we became NRG. And I honestly, when I saw it at first, I wasn't a fan of it. I was kind of like, I don't know, this looked a little corny. I thought it looked a little corny at first. But then I started putting two and two together. I was like, you know what? No, this actually makes sense because at first when I look at it, I don't necessarily think energy. I think NRG, but it makes me say the word energy. And then I was like, okay, cool. So that was kind of like more of I wanted to describe this feeling that I have, again, in its simple, rawest form. I didn't want to add too many letters. I didn't want it to be extra. I just wanted it to be, this is it. You know what I mean? And NRG, to me, made so much sense. And this whole concept, honestly, I only thought about it a year ago, originally. Because this is my first year doing the green hair. I thought about it a year ago because I wanted, if I tell myself, me DJing now, because at the time, what was it? This was in 2023. So at the time, I was already signed, doing stuff with My Yellow Organics, Essence Fest, went viral here and there, et cetera, et cetera. So I already was kind of doing things that I like accomplished, that God put me in this place to accomplish. I started the energy concept because of that light, and the green was just more of like, when I think of energy, I think go, like go, right? And immediately I thought of the battery symbol, and the symbol I thought was the battery emoji. So I tied the green of the battery emoji with, okay, energy, green, go. You know what I mean? So now, literally, you guys will see me post. I'm always posting this battery symbol. But every time I see it, I think charged up, go, energy. And I feel like I've always done colored hair, but this would be the time to make a statement.
And you got to make that statement because you got to make sure that people remember who you are, right? So it makes you stick out even more, and people are going to be like, oh, yeah, I know. And I think that's part of like I had heard your name, and then I started seeing the green, and I'm like, oh, like this
The
shit's
green
going,
hair.
like that shit's going, this shit's going. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny because I had a friend from New York who called me and was like, yo, was you on the Shy? And I was like, I was on the Shy. And I thought, I was like, oh, I was on the Shy. I almost forgot that I was on the show.
You forgot you were on the Shy?
Not literally, but when the way he said it, I was like, I was on the Shy. And I was like, oh, I was. And then he was like, yeah, I seen this girl with green hair. And I was like, I knew it had to be you. And I was like, the green hair did it.
So touching on that energy thing, right? Energy is so important to everything that you do. The way that you carry yourself impacts the result that comes from anything you do. For me, I think lately I haven't been putting enough energy into what I'm doing, and it shows in my results. It shows to me, right? Because we were just talking about this with Hurston. From the outside looking in, like you could think that shit's great, that shit's moving and like everything's perfect. But when you're on the inside, you already know all your faults. You already know all the problems you have. So you internalize those problems and then externalize it to what you got going on, carrying that energy and putting it into what you're doing.
So it's funny that you bring that up because that's actually something that I used to have a big problem with. I would put so much energy into other stuff and I would put myself last, like a lot. Like I was always putting myself last, but I'd be so ready to go help somebody else, right? And at first, I never saw anything wrong with it. Like, why not? You know what I mean? It should be good to be a helping hand, right? But then you realize that, and I realized this, that you can't pour into people and be the source that people need you to be that energy source people need you to be, if you can't charge yourself, right? A lot of times, especially in the entrepreneurship world, where people are like kind of, getting it almost 24/7, you know, not even a no sleep mentality, because I don't think that exists anymore, but the idea of like working, working, working until you get it nonstop. We forget to check point ourselves and say, hey, okay, right now I need to charge myself up so I can continue to be an energy source for others. You know what I mean? With me, the way I charge myself a lot is really outside of like, well, I'll start with this. The main thing for me is church for me. And I'll say more specifically, me growing in wisdom and understanding of the relationship I have with God. That honestly has helped me understand more of who I am truly, what I was created to be, and what I'm meant to do, you know? And it reminds me that even the energy that I have is not coming from me. Like, it's coming from him. He's the source, and he's just pouring it into me. So it's just like he's just pouring into you these ideas, these creative things. You'll hear these things all the time of like, there's no original idea, right? These ideas and these things and these sources are getting poured into you as dreams and visions. And sometimes we forget, or sometimes we believe that these dreams and visions are almost impossible to believe because we think it's just a dream or vision. But we forget that that dream or vision was sent to us to actually enact, to actually put to the pavement and press the start button and go, right? But in order to carry it, we need the energy source to do that. So what does that mean? We need to not only take care of ourselves mentally, not only physically, not only emotionally, right? But we need to make sure that the environment that we have around us feeds us that as much as possible. So now you start noticing, if I'm in an environment, things feel off, the energy feels kind of weird, then you start noticing that you don't even produce the same way if you're in an environment that everything is good, everything flows, everything is natural. Even if there's a case that you mess up, right? If you're in an environment that everything feels like it's supposed to be, you'll understand that it's meant to happen as such, right? So I think a lot of times as creatives and just individuals as whole, it's important for us, I'll say, especially for me, it's important for me to understand that my energy source didn't originate from me. I didn't birth myself. My energy source came from God. God fed it to me, right? Continuously feeds it to me every day. So now that takes off the pressure. I don't have any weight on me now because I don't have to depend on myself to be charged up. I just sit down, meditate, pray, remember why I'm here. And then God continues to put that energy in. Okay, I got something else for you. Boom. We need you to get that energy up and showcase that light that was put in you for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens in its order and its time. It's up to you as the individual to trust that order. Because in trusting that order, you will get what you desire. But a lot of times we don't get what we want because we don't trust it.
We question it, we rush it, we're not patient with it. We really think that I need this right now, but everything in due time, right? God's timing is the best timing.
We can't compare God's timing to instant gratification. Because you want instant gratification, that's cool. You can go get it. But that means you're saying no to every single possibility that God may have. Well, God does have for you. Because what he has for you has nothing to do with instant gratification. What he has for you is way beyond instant gratification. But because we're in a world that everything is so quick and so fast and so boom, 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 it's very easy for us to forget that we don't really need instant gratification.
And that's why I posted what I posted yesterday on my story. How Russ was talking about, sometimes the things that you chase for so long, once you get it, you're still empty. There's still that void because you were chasing something thinking this is what I need. But really, like you're saying, God has a different plan for you. There was a different path, there was a different option, but you wanted this so bad that you didn't even think about what other things could be coming your way.
Here's the beautiful thing about all this. We're not meant to be perfect. Perfection does not exist. It doesn't. And whether people want to believe it or not, people can have an idea of perfection. People can have an assumption of what perfection may look like, but perfection does not exist, because if you were perfect, you wouldn't really be needed in this planet. You wouldn't be needed here in this world. The best things are actually imperfect, because in that imperfection, I can learn something from. I could take wisdom from an imperfection. I could learn, oh, this is how this has happened. This is how this is done. This is how this is not done. I can take things, I could learn from it. That's the beauty of like mistakes and failures and things. But the world tries to, in a way, convince us that it's better to fear not being perfect than not fear being perfect. See what I'm saying? So it's better to fear, not being the best or not being perfect or feeling like if you weren't at that level, you failed, right? Than just not being afraid to not be perfect. Because in that moment where you are literally unafraid, AKA the I don't give a fuck moment, where you're in that moment where you're literally unafraid to be whoever you are supposed to be, knowing that you have flaws, that you're imperfect, that you are human, right? In the sense of humanity. That's when you are actually at your highest peak, because you're fearless. You don't care. You're not looking at the standard of, you're not looking at these standards that the world put. You know what I mean? What do they call them? The I forgot what it's called, but these little rules the society says you have to live by. These codes that you
Societal
learn.
norms.
Yeah, societal norms. You don't live by those norms. You live in your own term.
What was the moment that showed you that, right? That you can break away from this, that you don't have to fear not being perfect?
It was last year, springtime, 2023. This was when I decided fully that I am going to let go of control, of trying to control how everything's supposed to be in my life, right? What I mean by that is that I used to be very, very like, things got to be like A, B, C, D. If it's not like this, that we fail, whatever, right? Almost sticking to a script. And because I came up with the script. So I thought my script, I came up with it. It's my idea. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking my script is so perfect and chef's kisses, beautiful and whatever. And then life happens and it interrupts the script. So at the time, things were going well on the DJ side. I was doing a lot of good things, but I wanted more, right? And I'm looking at the script, things like goals I had written out for myself. I'm like, why am I falling behind? What's happening? It's like, am I letting life interrupt? Like, what's the problem? The problem was never life. The problem was the script. And I realized that the script was so like limiting. Like I felt like it almost something that I thought made me feel free because I had all these goals and these things I'm going to accomplish and this, that, and the third and whatever. And it's going to happen at this age and at this month is going to happen. Because I felt like I was the one that was making all of these things happen in my script, that's what made me feel like, oh, shit. That's when I realized, like, that's not how this works. I don't really control nothing. I'm really just humbly. I am literally a vessel molded in God's hands to help something else or help a bigger plan, to inspire a bigger plan. So all of this that I'm doing, right, is bigger than me. I had that moment in springtime because the summer season's coming up. In the summer season, I do a lot of traveling and touring and stuff like that. And I started feeling empty. Like, I didn't want to DJ no more. This is the first time I said this publicly. I did not want to DJ no more. I was fed up. I was kind of like, I was going in and out of a depression type of thing. And it was like a depressive state of mind where I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like, oh, I didn't like the way I was DJing. Oh, I didn't have the passion, the energy to like really put into DJing anymore. Even practicing, became very, very, very hard. And it hurted more that I didn't care for it anymore at that time. And that's when I look back at my goals and my script and was like, dang. And I realized the script, all of this stuff that I'm trying to write down to make life perfect with this idea of perfection, this is what it'd be if my life was perfect, was messing me up. So I actually had a paper written down. And when I realized that it was, I actually started crying. I tore that paper up, threw it away. And I said to myself, I am no longer going to control how this career goes.
What was on that list that you felt like was missing?
This is going to sound crazy. To be honest, I felt like I never had a community in Chicago at the time. I felt like, and I don't believe that people in Chicago never supported me. No. I felt like at the time, I was too busy looking at, okay, I have a friend here. Okay, good. Perfect example. Simi, my girl, my sister. I am so proud of how she has grown over the past few years because we kind of started around the same time. And what I'm most proud of is that she found her community within the underground new music circuit, the new scene circuit, right? And she's actually someone that really loves that genre of music. Like she loves it, right? So that's her community. With me, I was DJing clubs and parties and that. It was fun and everything. But then I would go home to big, nice 3-bedroom, bath crib by myself. And I felt like, okay, where's my community of people that I like belong to, right? I had friends. I had people that I rocked with. I had people that supported me, that I loved dearly. But at the time, I wasn't mature enough to understand what it meant to have a community of people, what it means to grow with a village, to grow with people, right? Because everything was just happening so fast. So on that list was to build a community, right? But the way that it was on that list, it wasn't like a plan. It was like to find my community. It was like an aspiration to find my community. This is where I want to be, you know. And I think what made me sad at the time, it made me want to be like, no, I'm not about to control this. Was that I saw myself in the mirror. I started looking at myself, and I started realizing that I was trying to force something that should happen so naturally. Oftentimes, when we're working and whatever we're good at, we would sometimes try to force people to be like, hey, look at me, pay attention, I'm raw. You know what I mean? And people will notice you. They might say, hey, what's up? But doesn't mean they're your community. Doesn't mean that they're your people, right? Which is fair. And at the time, I think that actually hurted me. I was immature. I was younger, right? At the time, I think that hurted me. And it hurted that I was focusing so much on trying to find that whatever that was.
Where it fit.
Where it fit, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, right? I was just like, I'd be going from Hubbard Inn one night, and I'm DJing at these places, you know what I mean? So it's not to say like people there I didn't rock with and I didn't, care for, and we built a relationship, but I was just DJing. I was just a DJ here. And I'll get called to fly out this place and that place. I was like, dang, like, it's fun. I was like, where is the community of people that's like, that I can relate with?
And that truly care about you. I think that's one of the hardest things that you have to deal with, that everybody has to deal with in this entertainment industry. You're searching for people who truly, genuinely care about you. I think back to somebody like Billie Eilish, right? She talks about it constantly. Like, I grew up in this industry, and for so long, I felt like I had no friends. All of my friends were people that I worked with. So it wasn't real friendships. It was just you're around me, so of course you're gonna be close to me. And with that being said, like for me, especially recently, like we do these interviews afterwards, people leave and like that's it. They don't give a fuck about who Matt is after that. They don't give a fuck about Sad Boy Radio after that. They got their conversation, so now they're good, right? And sometimes it's people that have been hitting me up for 6 months to a year, like let's lock in, let's lock in. Okay, I'll give you this interview, but what's gonna happen afterwards? You're not gonna give a fuck no more, and that's cool.
It's cool, but as a creative, that shit kind of hurt because at the end of the day, we get it's a business. It's not, and I'm not saying at all, in no way, shape, or form, that the business isn't business, but it does. The human form, it does kind of sting when you realize, damn, okay, it's not that I don't need to have friends. I'm not searching for friends, but it's like, okay, where is my group of people, my community of people that understands, you know, going through the late night hours of this type of gig and waking up and having to edit your own videos and then staying on the phone for however hours, booking your own gigs and then taking lesser than what you would want pay cuts just to say that you matter in this space. Where is the group of people that understands that, you know? And I felt like for so long before that moment that I was just like someone that was just a good DJ. She's cool. She's active. She's dance. She's energy. She's just good at DJ, right? So to me, it felt like an all. Me DJing didn't make a difference. It felt like, okay, I could DJ and somebody else could DJ. You could probably tell the difference between who's DJing, but it wasn't impactful. The essence of the brand in me being there wasn't as impactful, right? So that springtime in the spring, that's last year, that's when I like realized like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, right, and I'm gonna do this for real, it needs to be impactful. If I'm going to take whatever God has given me, whatever he's pouring into me, these ideas, gifts, whatever he's trying to do, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it for real, right? I can't waste time with what he given me because I don't want it to disappear or taken away or, you know, be a disappointment. No one wants to feel like that. So I'm like, okay, so how do I be impactful? And before, I remember when I was first started DJing that as a woman, I remember I was told this by somebody. They told me, no one's going to pay attention to you unless you're talking about sports and selling sex as a woman. This was in 2018. At first, I was very offended because I was like, why would nobody want to hear me DJ unless I'm showing ass and titties or talking about sports? Like, you know what I mean? And at first I didn't understand it, but then I started realizing I think that was just his perspective on the world, right? And I told myself, I don't want to be that type of entertainer or DJ that sticks to somebody's perspective of the world and conforms to it. If I'm going to do this, I need to be impactful in a way that's natural to me. So what's natural to me? High energy, I dance, I talk a lot of shit on the mic. Cool. How do we make this effective in a way where other people can realize they're no different than me? Because that'd be the biggest thing too. As people think that, one person has this, one person that, and they're two different things. It's like, no, we're really not that different at all. Honestly. And when I realized with the pure energy branding and movement was the fact that the energy that I have is the energy that y'all have. I just display it a different way. You know what I mean? It's very, very similar, if not almost the exact same. And what I started realizing is sometimes when you just show who you are naturally, it makes other people want to show who they are naturally. It brings in a space where it's like, all right, cool.
Because you're comfortable. Because you're comfortable with displaying who you really are. Like somebody has already worn their heart on their sleeve, so why am I going to hold back?
Yeah, it's like inviting.
Now, something that you talked about was the fact that you didn't have this community, but yet you continue to pour into others before focusing on yourself. Why do you feel like that was?
When I was in high school, when I was in middle school, and this is something that most kids go through at the time. But when I was in high school and middle school, I was the smart kid that was bullied, right? And when I was younger, I didn't have a group of friends that I just kicked it around. I maybe had like one or two friends, and these were like my people, right? But I was the girl that was bullied. I wasn't the cool kid in the school, right? And I would remember that I would try to be a part of that crowd, right? You would try to not necessarily fit in, but say that, hey, I matter too. Hey, you like Barbie, I like Bratz. We could play together, those type of things. But in high school and middle school, you know, kind of no matter how nice I was, it just didn't work. I just never, I was always just picked on, right? Okay. And when I mean picked on, I mean, it's like, I didn't get beat up every day. It was just more of like,
You were the
I
outcast.
was the outcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the outcast. Like the smart kid, just the outcast, right? So when I graduated from high school, I went to Thornwood High School, right? When I graduated from high school and I got accepted to U of I in Urbana-Champaign, I told myself, this year when I go to college, I am not going to be the same girl from high school. Meaning, I'm not going to hold back my interests, my thoughts, my perspectives. I'm going to say what I feel, no matter if someone likes it or not. And if they like it, they're going to rock with me. If they don't like it, they're not going to rock with me. So in college, I became the girl that was always throwing parties, right? I was still smart, still going to class, still passing everything, But I was the girl that was throwing the parties. I was part of this group called Pyramid Productions. And, we would throw the biggest parties in campus for the people of color community because of PWI. You know what I mean? And that was a time where it was like Project 500 and the PWIs were only less certain amount of color people in, et cetera, et cetera. And we would throw the parties for that campus, right? Now, this is me on college, so high school me didn't exist. So I'm just like, yo, what you see is what you get. I got a lot of stuff to say that's on my mind. I like to have fun. I like to dance. And you can have fun with me too. In college, I saw people like really like kind of be attracted to that. Okay, cool. And I was like, okay, cool. So it's working, right? Like I could just be myself. It's working. Then in my sophomore year, I was told by someone who I believe deared for me. She cared a lot for me. She told me, she said, you have so much energy. You have such a you have such a bright view on the world. And I was like, yeah, thank you, right? She says, but you got to realize everybody doesn't have that type of energy. So you can't just approach people like that because they won't like you. So when she said that, I instantly started getting flashbacks of high school. And I was like, okay, do I do things to get people to like me? Or do I just continue to be myself? I was young. I was like, 19, 20 at the time? So I was like, you know what? I wanna belong to the community, right? So I was like, still myself, but I toned down. Meaning I wasn't as high energy as I always am. I toned down to make people comfortable around me. And that's where I messed up. Because to make other people comfortable with who I am, that required me to take away what God gave me. That was natural, that light, that spark that made me me. And at the time, I didn't realize how devastating that was to me because when you tone down, you tone down. Like, I just wasn't myself. I didn't recognize myself. So then when I graduated from U of I moved to Chicago. And okay, I'm about to start DJing, right? Mind you, U of I was still out there. You know what I mean? I was still dancing. I was DJing my senior year of college, doing great stuff. I opened for T-Pain. It was a whole thing. I had a whole experience. It's fun, right? I come to Chicago and I'm like, all right, bet. I'm going to come out here, you know what I'm saying? And I'm going to just learn. I'm going to just learn the city, learn how things go, just be a student. And when I came out here, that's when I heard the thing about, no one's going to pay attention to me unless I was talking about sex or sports or whatever. And that again was another thing of that to me was another thing of someone else saying, well, what you have is not enough, right? I was like, damn, I'm so tired of hearing this conversation of I got to tone down or I got to change people to accept who I am. So I believe like that transition from Chicago, like being in Chicago for like, what was that? Last year made 5 years, maybe like 2018. Yeah, made 5 years. Being in Chicago for 5 years, DJing for 5 years. I've only been DJing for about to be 6 years. But I've only been DJing for almost 6 years. Making that transition made me realize, okay, so I could continue to try to fit in other people's communities or try to fit in other people's groups, or I could just be myself. And whatever group that God wants to send to me or just wants me to be around, to gravitate and accept. It's a lot of work to change yourself.
Trying to conform to something you're not, it's just like it's not realistic all the time.
It's not
And,
right.
and for you continue to search for this community. What was it about this community you felt like it was gonna fill? What were you looking for in these communities?
Like a sense of home. Like a sense of, okay, I'm not just DJing just to DJ. There's people or a group of people out there who relate to who I am, the music I'm DJing, how this music makes you feel, and why, right? So it's almost a sense of like reason for that.
But even outside of the music, even outside of this in the entertainment industry, right? You've been searching for a community since you were young. What was it you were hoping a community to provide for you?
Ashley was looking for a sense of validation, to be seen as, okay, cool, you're in. We applaud you and approve you and validate you, right? That was Ashley of yesterday. Ashley of today, that sits before you, understands that the biggest form of approval and validation comes from the person that gave me this light, this energy, which is God. I don't necessarily need to search out and look for somebody to say, hey, you're approved.
Do you think that stems from the culture you grew up within, right? You grew up in a Nigerian household.
Yeah.
A lot of the times you have immigrant parents, you're searching for that validation. You're searching for them to say like, good job. You did that shit, right? My dad's Mexican.
Yeah.
And I chalk it up to most dads, but since he's Mexican, he's a little extra. But like, he'd be telling me like, when are you gonna make some money? Like, when are you gonna do this? You know what I'm saying? And for me, I don't know. I've heard Nigerian households are pretty strict.
Oh yeah, they super strict.
So do you feel like that validation came from the fact that, right, they wanted you to be a doctor? So they already set that expectation of you need to be somebody in this life.
A sense of it did come from the household. I also, though, do believe that my parents being immigrant parents, coming here to a country that is very new, you know what I mean, rules that they don't really quite understand, they just want the best, right? But they're going off of what they know as the best from when they grew up. So back at home in Nigeria, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you're someone with a business practice or a medical license or the doctor title in front of you, you're someone of stature, right? You're someone of status back at home. Because you're seen as someone that can physically impact the economical state of living back at home, right? Music wasn't seen as something that can do that at that time, right? So I'm telling my parents, yeah, I'm going to do music. Like, what? Like, we put you through pre-med programs and, and all these after school things, and for you to be a doctor and you telling us you don't, you know what I mean? And a part of me felt like, okay, if I could just get them to be like, oh, we get it. You're good. Good job. We believe in you. Then I feel like, okay, I'm doing my job. It would feel like a sense of like, okay, mark it off. Like, you doing your job. You're doing what you're supposed to do, right? But again, and I'm very transparent with how I am. I have gained close people around me that I have conversations with who also go through similar things that I go through, right? And one of the greatest pieces of knowledge I've gained from this close circle around me was that people will never understand what your journey is. People will never understand the purpose of the journey. But at the moment you get to that mark, to that finish line of that journey, people will see why you suffered the way you suffered, why you cried the way you cried, why you sweat the way you sweat. Because the end of that journey wasn't for your benefit, it was for all of their benefit, for them to move forward. And when I heard that, I realized that my parents, family, whatever, they may not understand the fullness of what I'm doing. But I know at the end result, the way it'll impact, they'll understand, okay, this is why she cried, she suffered, she restored, she did all of these things to get to where she got to. Because it wasn't for her, it was to help us see something in a different light. That's the thing, right? When you have a purpose that's bigger than yourself, you're going to cry. You're going to sweat. You're going to bleed. You're going to go through things that feel like, why am I putting so much work and effort? Because that's what it was about for me. I put all this effort and work into it for what? Who's who's receiving it? I don't want to do this for me anymore. I feel like when you first start doing something in music or creative arts, yeah, you use it as expression of art because you love it, right? Everybody expresses art in their own way because you love it, you're telling a story, etc. But then at a certain point, you start feeling like, I don't want to. I'm good. Okay, I get that. I can express my art all day. Cool. I can make money. Cool. But what's the bigger picture? What's the bigger thing? What is this? What is this? Everybody has that feeling. And that last year was when I actually finally questioned myself and questioned that feeling and said, okay, you know what? I'm not about to just make this about me no more.
You had to redefine that purpose because you were this close to saying, I'm good. Like, I don't need this. And when you get to a point where, again, you've achieved certain things that you never thought you would have achieved, you have all these opportunities, and everybody looks at you as this amazing figure. Oh my gosh, they're doing some amazing things. Like, who would have thought, right? You get to that point, and then you look inward and you look at yourself and say, okay, like, again, going back to the external outlook, everybody thinks that it's like rainbows and sunshine. On the inside, I'm crying.
And this is the thing I'm saying too. The things that we go through as creatives, this is very normal thing. You gotta think about it. Especially when you're a person of color who works in an industry or a line of work that is dominated by people who would be who used to be considered your superiors, right? When you're in this field and you want to be able to say, hey, I can make a space here too. I belong in this space too, right? So it's like you almost you kicking and you punching through the door because you want it so bad. But then you have to remember you destined for it. It's already there. You already got it. You destined for it. So there's no need to move like you're desperate for it. Because once you start doing that, then you start fighting what's meant for you. And I was never desperate for what I was given to do and what God gave me. But I knew that because he gave me these things, it didn't mean that I should start becoming desperate to have certain things. You know what I mean? And that was a moment where I had to check myself. You know what I mean? What am I DJing for? Am I DJing for people to look at me and be like, oh, she's awesome? Or am I DJing for a bigger picture? You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with any entertainer DJ that wants to DJ for themselves or do anything for themselves. That's cool. For me, for this to be enjoyable for me, for this to mean something for me to put in hours after hours after hours in time, something we cannot get back into this, for me, it cannot be about me. It has to be about a bigger picture, how whatever I do impacts the entire globe and what that is going to look like. I don't know how God's going to place it down the line, but I know he continuously feeds me these things. So there's somewhere where whatever he's feeding me, I have to showcase what he gave me to showcase in a way. And now I'm at a point where I'm not going to take that for granted. And I'm also at a point now that's like all of this is bigger than what it is. Like for you, Cyber Radio, I remember watching the interview you had last year.
Mhm.
And at first I was like, okay, this is a cool podcast, radio station. It's just up and coming town, Chicago. Okay, cool. And then I started seeing the talking points. And you know what impressed me the most is that this is not just about music artists or creatives or whatever. This is about everyday people that go through everyday shit. And sometimes they feel like they have things that they go through, but they just can't talk about. So they hold it in. Maybe they go on Threads or Twitter or whatever, X or whatever the fuck it's called, and, put it on there. But they go through the same shit in a different way. They have the same experience in a different way. One thing I appreciated about this platform was that, okay, this is where people can address it and talk. You know what I mean? And, okay, feel like, okay, she went through it, something that I'm going through right now. And now that I know that it's not only me, I feel okay with letting it go. Sometimes when you know you're not the only one in it, you feel okay with just, all right, letting it go. It's not a big deal. It'll pass.
You don't got to internalize it anymore. And I forgot who said it to me. You know, a lot of people say a lot of different quotes on here, but this too shall pass. Everything that you go through, eventually it's going to pass. Time heals all wounds.
The good times will pass. The bad times will pass. The only thing of value in this world that you cannot get back is time. So you want to make sure everything that you do, you say, that you live, the time that you spend on things is worth the time, because you're not going to get that back. And I mean, as humans and people, we take that for granted. Yeah, we do. I mean, we live in a fast-paced world where we just trying to catch up to everything sometimes, it feels like. But we really can't play with time for real, because everything that everybody does matter. The good and the bad. It makes a difference.
What do you feel like something you held on to for too long?
It was hard for me to forgive people for a long time. And forgive people meaning like, and I'm not talking about like exes or nothing like that, because that is exactly what people going to say. Don't tweak on me now. Just relax.
We could get into that too.
Right. But like, I think that the idea of going through something that was painful or traumatic for you, right? And to heal, to truly heal. I remember my prophet at Revelation Nation Church told me this. To truly heal, you do have to forgive. A lot of people are sick, not because of certain diseases or whatever, but because they have not forgiven and let go. It takes a certain amount of energy to hold on to something and not want to let it go because it hurt, it stung, it's a slap or a spit in the face or whatever, and you just want revenge or you just want, whatever. But it takes real courage and bravery to forgive and be like, I let it go. And though I held on too long to me not being able to forgive, because what was happening was I had a friend that we had our differences in college, and when we separated, she was like my best friend. I was so mad. I was so mad at her when we separated, and I held on to it so long because I was just mad. It was like I want to stay mad. I want to stay mad, and I wanted somebody to validate that I had every right to be mad and stay mad. But me being mad didn't profit me anything. I was just stayed in a feeling.
I don't know if this is true for you, but sometimes we hold on to those emotions because that's the only type of connection we still have to that person.
Sometimes that's true. Like some people, when they grow up with mentors or anything like that, whatever the relationship was between a mentee and mentor, for example, right? Some people hold on to that relationship because, that was a relationship that meant something to them. But if in that relationship, it was constant friction, I've heard this before. A lot of people are more afraid of the angel they don't know, but they're less afraid of the devil that they do know. So you're more afraid of the unknown that could get you to a higher place, but you're more comfortable with the evil that you just sit in because you know it. You've seen it. You recognize it. So I'm comfortable. I'm cool. I know the drama I'm dealing with versus going to the unknown that could actually just be the blessing that you need.
What was it you had to let go of? What was it that happened?
I had to let go of the fact that people are who they show you, right? You cannot change people to be who you want them to be. It's not realistic. And you have to be okay with that. You can't beat yourself up for not, for someone not becoming who you want them to be, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about you. Sometimes we make other people's lives about us because we want them, it's just kind of being selfish, you know what I mean? So we make other people's lives about us. And the reality of it is that's just not how it works. And I know that in that situation, I wanted her to, and a friendship, right? In a friendship, I wanted her to adapt to what I was going through, to not judge me, but just adapt, be a part, And I didn't consider what was going on in her life, right? And when people go through things in life, things happen, right? Emotions flare up, things happen, but it was never nothing personal. So that was the other thing I learned too, that I should have let go, that I let go now, but at the time I should have let go, was that you can't take everything personal. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter how close they are to you. You cannot take it personal, because the minute you do will be when everything starts to fall apart. Things in this world are not just meant to be taken personal, because when you realize that everybody lives their own lives, have these things going on, you know what I mean? It really has nothing to do with us or you, for real. It doesn't, you know what I mean? And that's a big thing in relationships too nowadays. You see that, all right? Like, it's this whole idea of independency, and at the same time of you want to be independent, but you want to be in a relationship. It's kind of like people want to the best of both worlds. And the biggest thing that I realized about even those type of things is that you just, number one, accept people for who they are. And if you accept and truly accept them, like, if you're gonna be best friends with them, be best friends with them. If you're not gonna be best friends, then don't be best friends. If you're gonna be cordial, be cordial. But truly accept people for who they are, and do not judge them for who they are. Because on the other side, you don't want to be judged for who you are. So don't judge other people for who they are. Straight up, just don't. We know this, but for real, just don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Other thing is, forgiveness is more powerful than you think. When you truly are able to forgive and let go, you notice it's like you have a clearer way of looking at the world. It's like everything just opens up, because now that place where you held on to something for so long, that little place that you let go, now you have room to let in the good, the blessing, the healing, to close up that gap so you can put something else that's worth more on top. So forgiveness is more valuable mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually than people really understand.
The idea that there's a placeholder there. There's something there that's blocking your blessings from coming through. It's something that I've said multiple times, right? You got to be ready to accept these blessings, because you hold on to certain things for so long that you're blinded. You don't realize that things are passing you by.
A lot of people get their 15 minutes of fame almost every day. But you really don't notice that you get in your moment, because you focus on so many other different things. Whether it's the instant gratification, the time of when things supposed to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like things are meant to help you, to mold you, to shape you into becoming the essence of who you're meant to be, are passing by. But when you're stuck in that anchor, or in that fear, because you're angry because you were hurt, but you're afraid to be hurt again. So now this anger has now molding in, it's now starting to stem from a fear of being hurt again. So when you sit in that, right, now you're not only affected, but everybody around you is being affected just by the way you talk. If you talk to someone that's scared, like truly scared, it's like everything around them is uneasy. They're all over the place. In a way, something about it is all over the place. They can come off really cool, but they don't they're so afraid about not knowing about what's going to happen tomorrow that they are willing to jeopardize everything that's happening today. And it's like, damn, would you want to put your future self through that? Or anybody else around you? I don't know if you have kids, but if you have kids, your cousins, your mama, your dad, would you want to put them in that environment where now that energy spreads onto them and now they start feeling uneasy, shaky? Now they start feeling fearful of things. Now they're starting to have this mindset of, oh, okay, well, if I do this, then I might this. So I'm not going to do it. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. It's not fair to you. That's not fair to everybody else. And it really is selfish. Fear is a very selfish thing. And that is probably like the biggest lesson I learned last year.
So where do you feel like you are now with that, right? When we talked, the question that I sent you was what thoughts have been weighing heavy on your mind? And you sent back, what's the next step? What's the next level?
I believe that the next level is truly placing everything in God's hands, letting go of control. It is not meant for me to control what's happening. That's literally not my job. Truly, it's not my job. My job is solely to radiate that same light, that same energy that God put in me. That's my main job. However I choose to radiate that is how I choose to do it. But that's my main job. That's what makes me unique. And I believe that's what the next level takes, is to not necessarily focus, but center my attention and adoration on that gift and not take it for granted, right? I believe when in the past, when I was so wounded up by like fear or trying to belong or trying to this, that, or third, validated, especially being a Black woman in nightlife in Chicago, and you don't know what's gonna happen, right? You don't know if people don't like you, like whatever, you don't know, right? I feel like letting go of that idea and possibility and clearing up that space in my mind opens me up to now, okay, now you can put your heart, now you can put your time, you can put your real juices flowing towards how do we emulate, how do we share this light that's inside of you in a way that it makes others want to share their light. That's the next level. So if God put this light in me, how do I share this light so that everybody else wants to take it and share their own light with somebody else? Because it's like somebody's watching this interview right now. They're going to see your light. They're going to see everything you're doing with Sad Boy Radio. They're going to see your light. And when they see that light, that's going to make them want to share theirs. And so on and so forth. That's the beautiful thing about energy. It doesn't die. It's transferable. And it can transform to positive and negative. See what I'm saying? So for me, my next level is to let go of the fear of not being in control. And I feel like the moment I did that is the moment where everything just started to click.
You do this through various art forms, right? Not just through DJing. There's an art to speaking. So being able to speak on the mic, that's an art form, right?
Yeah.
Dancing, turning up the crowd the way that you
Yeah.
do. Dancing is something that's been a part of your life forever.
Yeah.
How did dance help establish the first identity that Ashley knew growing up?
Being a Nigerian household, we always had celebrations, right? And growing up, me and my sister were like the best dancers in our like family group. My mom used to dance, and like traditional dancing for weddings and stuff like that, right? And me and my sister were just like the best dancers. So growing up, I just always had it in my blood to dance. When I was in college, before I started DJing, was when I was like, you know what, I'm going to dance in public, like competitively. So I was on my college's competitive dance team, Conglomerate. There was Conglomerate and there was Hypnotic, right? And we would like battle each other throughout the season. But it was competitive dance teams.
He was living, not Step Up, Stomp the Yard.
No, Stomp the Yard. It was literally like Stomp the Yard. And we would like battle, like duke it out. But it was great. And that was where my love for performance really like came out and shined. But that's when I noticed that like, oh, this is something that comes natural for me, right? The dance when I was a kid and at parties was something that we always did. But taking it into college before I started DJing and just doing it, there would be a pep rally and they would do this thing where they would give away like money to the best like bopper, like West Side footwork, whatever juke person, and I would run up to stage and do it. And I would win, but we would do it. And that is what like was natural to me. So when I first started DJing, I'll never forget my first gig ever. I opened up for Vic Mensa on campus.
U of I?
U of I. And it was my first gig
What
in
year?
front of people. This was where I graduated 2018. This is fall of 2017.
Okay.
Fall of 2017. It was October because it was before homecoming.
So it was around like when he released Autobiography.
Yeah. But he was he was doing like college tours at that time, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was like, man, okay, it's my first stage concert thing, whatever, right? This is something that I really wanted to do. So I'm DJing and I'm sounding pretty good, right? I'm new, so I'm sounding pretty good. The crowd's rocking with me, but they not moving like how I wanted them to move. I was like, dang, I don't get them to move. It's like, you know what? I said, fuck it. I'm just dance. So I played my last song. What did I play? I can't even remember what I played. That's crazy. I played my last song. And I don't remember my last song. I played one song. It was my final song. All I remember is because I was scared and I was sweating. I remember I was real nervous. I went from behind that table, put that song on, and got to turn it up in the crowd. And they was like, oh, shit. See, turn, whoa. And that's what actually caused them to interact with me. And they started dancing. And I was like, oh, okay. It's like y'all just wanted to open door.
You unlocked the cheat code.
Yeah. It was like, so y'all was like afraid of me or something. And when I came out from behind the booth, that's what y'all was like, oh. And then they started dancing in the crowd. So they wanted like the open door for it to be like, okay, to dance and turn up. And that's when I realized my gift in this isn't necessarily dancing, talking to mic. It's the way that I make people feel when they're around me.
That's that energy.
Yeah, that's that energy. That's what that is.
You know, the fact that somebody had told you to almost dim your light earlier and the fact that that's been your key, it just shows that you're living in your true purpose. Before we move on from that, I actually had something pop up. Speaking of Vic Mensa, you have a pretty close relationship with Taylor Bennett, don't you?
I do. TV, yes, it's my boy.
Talk about that a little bit. How did that all start? Like, I always be seeing him post you, so I'm like, I gotta ask her, right? It's Vic Mensa,
Okay.
Taylor Bennett.
Okay, so shout out to my boy Chris Mento. Chris, T's manager. Chris has seen me DJ at Promontory countless times. And like he knows I am with music. So he hit me up. He was like, yo, like, he told me about DJing with Tay one day. And I was just like, okay, let's just see how it goes, right? So Chris actually booked me for his Juke Jam party for T's birthday earlier this year. It was like in January or something, right? That's my first time actually doing anything for Taylor, right? But again, so I have a group of friends, creation, dance team. My homies Mike D, Lil Bit, Pause, D93 was also a DJ. Reese, Marquise. You know, we all like Whenever we go outside, whenever I'm outside, they go outside. They'll come up and support, right? But they're all dancers. And being someone that dances, I'm realizing, okay, bet. I'm like, yo, y'all want to pull up with me? It's probably we can just turn it up. You know what I mean? Because this year, my biggest thing was if I DJ any party, any club, or anything, I want people around me that's going to have fun like me, right? Club, of course, are going to do their thing, but I want people around me that I know that's going to have that same energy as me, right? So I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, you know, I was like, yeah, we'll turn up, whatever. They came out, yo, it was like a movie. It was crazy, right? And granted, like the whole club was busting, but like them being there was like the icing on cake, right? And I think that was the first time that Taylor saw me perform in person. So he saw my energy in person, and he came up. He was so humbly, so nice, gracefully, just anything. That's like, yo, you're dope. I want to work with you more. I'm like, okay, cool. Like Chris and them, they got my number. Cool. When the single came out, you know, when we shot the video for it and during that party and everything like that, that was in January. And when the single was out, I want to say that was maybe like April-ish, April, May. I actually have a street performance license in Chicago. Street performance license. You get a street performance license for like $100 from the city, and you could perform literally on any street in Chicago. So I tell him, yo, well, he tell me about, you know, he want to do something for the single. I'm like, yo, we should just like get a big speaker and get on the back of a pickup truck and just drive around the city and just turn up. And he like, oh yeah? I'm like, yeah, like I got a license. They can't arrest us, I don't think. He's like, for real? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I had access to a speaker. We found a pickup truck through his homie, and we started driving around town playing juke music, getting ready for the summer. And I didn't know it was gonna have that reaction. I just thought it was a good idea. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was actually hilarious. I didn't think he would do it for real. I thought he would just be like, nah, you could do it and whatever. But he was game. And it made me appreciate that he's just down for the art. He's down for the ride of the art and just to have fun with it. So ever since then, we just been locked in. Anything he need, I'll DJ or spin or whatever.
Now that you mention it, I remember hopping on that live for like a couple minutes. And I'm like, hold up, that was you.
That was me.
Now that you talk about it, I'm remembering it. I'm like, damn, that's crazy.
I didn't know he was gonna go live with it either. I thought we were just recording it and just, you know, for whatever. So I saw he was on live. I was like, oh, okay, cool. We had people outside. They was in the streets turning up, doing whatever. But it was fun to see that. It was fun to see that soul, that light come out. People have a good time. Taylor Bennett is a good person, or is a person that when you're around, you're gonna have a good time. You know what I mean? It's good energy to be around those type of people.
So we've talked about DJing, we've talked about dancing. There's another part of you that is super important to who NOSIKE is. It's that music publication, right? Being a music executive.
Yeah, this is the part of me that nobody knows about.
So touch on that, right? You started off with Bobby. Was that how it started off?
My last year of college, so 2017, I interned with Cobalt under Bobby and Troy. And I will say I learned a lot from them about how it works in the music industry as far as how do musicians make money. Because at the time, that was a conversation that really wasn't talked about. And I knew that I was going to be working in music in some capacity. I didn't know it'd be in this capacity, but I knew I'd be working in some capacity. So I want to know, okay, how does it work? And, you know, I met Bobby at PNB Rock's concert. I think earlier that year, 2017. And, you know, I told him, yeah, I'm interested in music business. I want to do it. He told me he had a publishing company. I said, okay, cool, bet. I'll intern. I'm a hustler, shit. I'm an intern. I'll do it. Like, I'm trying to gain the knowledge. I don't really care about none of the extra stuff. So I would on the weekends of U of I, whenever I wasn't in school, whenever I didn't have classes, I would come to Chicago and work in the office.
From U of I?
Yep. On the weekends. I'd take that Greyhound, that Amtrak, and come up to the city for 3-4 days and then go back to class. Literally. And I would do that for like pretty much until I graduated in 2018. The best thing about that situation was that Bobby Hustle and Troy Patterson did not have to take me as an intern, right? Anybody would take anybody's. I mean, you have interns. Interns are great, right? In the sense, but I didn't have to learn as much as I did, and I appreciate what I did learn from that experience, right? Because I understood the fact that as a musician, right, you're entitled to so much more money that you don't even know that you have out there, right? I learned that as a musician, that's a songwriter and producer specifically, are in a way a lot of the backbone of the music that's being created, right? We see all these hit songs being made by our favorite musicians, but we don't realize that it takes a songwriter, it takes a producer, it takes all of these different elements of music to make the record together, right? And each of these elements need to get what they're worth. They should get what they're worth. Like, you know what I mean? It's their creative idea to on these songs or these records or whatever it is. So the beauty of publishing, which is what I do currently now, right? But also I was interning under Bobby at Cobalt, was that I saw the back end, the behind the scenes of how the money flows from Harry Fox all the way down to the artist, to the talent, right? So the producer and even past the artist to producer and the songwriters, right? And it was so cool to me because I was like, oh my God, this is where the money comes in, and this is how they do the deals, and this is how I was at the time. I was like a new kid in the candy store. I loved it. So yeah, I learned after them. Yeah, I learned after them. And I appreciate what I learned from them. You know what I mean? And I believe that like in the music business, there's no one way to do music business. That's a very important rule. There's not like one way to hold a pencil, right? It's not a lot of ways. It's not one way to hold a pencil. There's no one way to do music business. Everybody has their own ways. The important thing about the music business is doing what is necessary to get the job done for the client, right? Making sure that whoever you're representing, whatever you're doing this for, they're getting what they deserve on the back end, right? Because at the end of the day, it's bigger than just, a publisher or an A&R or this executive. It's bigger than that. It's a whole machine of people that makes that 14, 13, 12-year-old girl sitting in her living room fall in love with this song by Sabrina Carpenter or that song by Victoria Monet. It takes a whole wheel from the songwriter to the producer to the publisher to the person who's getting it in movies. I'm a person that learned a lot of music based off film. So if I was a Disney Channel kid, so I was the kid that was listening to Radio Disney. I would listen to Radio Disney. And I learned music off of film, right? So film has a special place in my heart because, like, if you watch a movie that touches you and the soundtrack is just one thing you remember, like the Cheetah Girls to what? High School Musical? I was a High School Musical fan. What? All them things. That's how I learned music. So, publishing was important to me because the backbone of publishing was like a backbone of how people see this music. You know what I mean? We have our distribution channels and all those things, but publishing is a way where the creatives get paid for the work they did, and also a way for the work to be placed into the market and be seen in the market. It's a collective of things. And that's something that I did learn from being with Bobby, being with Troy, their whole team at Cobalt, when they were doing stuff with Sony, all that stuff.
So how did you take the lessons that you learned from Bobby and Troy and move it to what you do now, right? Now you've moved into different companies. How did you take those lessons to those new companies?
So actually, what I learned is that this part of the industry is not automated, meaning that it's still the part of the industry where people have to get up every day, get behind a computer, and log in the system, log in the information physically to a system for it to be registered and addressed. And I learned that this is also considered one of the hardest parts of the industry because the time it takes to do the registration, but also you have to handle this stuff with care. With music, what I learned from them and took into like this stage of my life with music is not just about sounds and pieces of sounds together. Music is about culture. Music is how music is influenced by culture and vice versa. They both influence each other. They have a balance, right? Um, One thing I like about, not to change subjects here, but one thing I appreciate about Laka Films, is that he has a good understanding of how culture influences music and how music influences culture. And when you have a good understanding of that balance, you're going to be able to actually even project what the next records are, what the next hits are, what the next message is that this culture of people are going to be talking about that'll be relayed in their music. You see what I'm saying? So the biggest lesson I learned that I take now is as a DJ and even doing music publishing for like, right. I mean, I'm Nigerian, so I like to focus on acts that don't have those type of resources. So the Afro acts, right? Because in Nigeria they have a little resource here and there, but it's still new to them. It's still a new language. Is that you have to handle these things with care. You can't just, okay, I'm just gonna register your stuff and then blah blah whatever. I mean, that's cool. The admin grade that's called administrative work. Administration work is great. It's very straightforward and cutthroat. But to be a full publisher, one part is doing the admin work, to registering the records, making sure that everybody has their splits. As many people as people want to say they don't care about splits, whatever. No, making sure that people have their splits. People still even know what a PRO is. Do you have your stuff registered? Whatever, right? That's the admin side, right? Making sure execution contracts are done. That's the admin side, right? And then the musical side, or the creative side, rather, is taking a producer who maybe had a nice run, right? New. Maybe he had one record that went viral on YouTube, right? Super eager. And placing that producer with an up-and-coming producer, right? Getting them to collab on a beat. And taking this beat and putting it on an artist record that now becomes one of the biggest records on Billboard. I did that with a client of mine. His name is Shizzy, right? Shizzy Magic Fingers, aka beautiful composition.
I love this story because I love who it involves. So go ahead.
So after the pandemic, when I was doing publishing, one thing I learned about publishing was that people are not going to come to you. You got to go to them. People don't know about this at the time. So I remember I DM'd Shizzy and I said, oh yeah, I do music publishing. I work for this person, etc. And if you need your stuff registered, I'd love to work for you or work with you and see how everything's done. I didn't think he was going to respond to me. But respond to me and say, yo, I want to work. And during the pandemic, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was okay, fuck it, we're going to work. So he sends me these records and these packs, and I'm listening to these packs. And a producer pack is literally just a file of production by a producer, right? Some of them might have demos, which are demo compositions of full songs, or at least top lines, which is like a hook and a verse, right? Hook, verse, hook, maybe, whatever. So I'm listening to these records. I'm like, okay. And it just so happened, this is when Clubhouse was a thing. So I was on Clubhouse and I'd be like, man, I'd be on Clubhouse until 2 a.m, maybe till 5 a.m. in my studio apartment. And I'm like, yeah, I got the best producers. What do you guys need? I'm just entering Clubhouses like, yeah, I got something, I'll play it, right? I was just playing it. And I remember I caught the attention of one super producer by the name of Happy from the Aristocrats. At the time, Happy was doing work with Empire, right? I also caught the attention of someone named Quayshawn Carter. Quayshawn Carter used to do a lot back in the day. He's like kind of like one of the old heads.
So they were just in random clubhouses?
Yes. Clubhouse was the place. If you wanted to get put on, you could have got put on Clubhouse, because when it first came out, it was so like, it was like everybody didn't have access unless you were able to catch it first. And like, if you caught it first, you got invited, then like you had access. So I got invited. So I was like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? And, they DM me and they were like, "Yo, the record you had was decent, right?" I played a song written by a friend of mine who at the time went by James Ryder. Beautifully written piece. Played it on Clubhouse. I was like, "Yo, we want to rock with it." Da 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 da. Said. I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I'm excited. I'm like, I'm not signed to anybody. I don't work with no company. I'm doing this by myself. So I'm proud, right? And as we're slowly getting out of the pandemic, Quayshawn hits me. He says, "Okay, so you know that he was handling Happy, doing stuff for Happy at the time, right? Who again was doing stuff with Empire." He's like, "Yeah, so we just I just got word that Empire just signed Fireboy. This is when Fireboy first got signed to Empire, right?" I'm like, "Okay, cool." So it was like, "Yeah, we know you're Nigerian. So do you have any producers or production that you could probably get to Fireboy?" So he needs a big record, right? Now, Quayshawn knows that I work in placements, that I work with producers and songwriters. So this is my time to like shine. So I'm like, "Bet, I got the perfect one." I sent him Shizzy. Because Shizzy's done stuff with Davido, with a whole bunch of just Afrobeat legends, right? So I sent him Shizzy, right? And Shizzy's production, something about his production was just very like, I don't know, it just kind of plucks at your heartstrings, right? AKA his name, Magic Fingers. So, I sent him Shizzy. I'm telling them, okay, you know what? He's here. You guys are in Atlanta. Let's schedule a meetup. We schedule a meetup. Boom. They kick it off. Cool. Everyone's happy. Bet. They call me. They say, "Yo, we're gonna have him come to a camp for Fireboy, right? Cool. Where's the camp? San Francisco. Perfect. Okay, that's where their line is. So now they're in San Francisco. I'm like, "Hey, is everything going on? Is everything good?" She's like, "Yeah, everything's good." So I did the job.
That makes sense now.
Yeah, that line in San Francisco jamming. Yeah, that line makes sense now, right?
That makes sense.
That makes sense now. So, they get there and Shizzy's like, "Oh yeah, we hit it off. We got a hit." So Shizzy, and that's one thing I loved working with. I love working with, and I still work with him now. But that was the thing I loved about working with him at that time, was that he knew when the hit was there. It was instant. So he hits me. He's like, "Yo, we got one. We got the hit." Da, da, da. I was like, "Yeah." So I'm excited because I'm like, okay, we put the play together. So I'm like, okay, cool, right? I didn't know how big the hit was until they sent me the record for me to hear before it released. And I was like, "Oh." And the record was Peru.
And this was before.
So Peru was out. This record came out April, right? Peru was out. It was buzzing on YouTube, on blogs, whatever. It was out. Flash forward to Christmas, I get a text from Happy. And Happy, one thing about Happy, he is a smart man. Very smart. Happy shows me the sex. And around Christmas time is the best time to do African music and Afrobeat music because everybody goes home for the holidays. He sends me, not the record, but sends me like kind of like a flyer, like a snippet. And I'm like, oh. Excuse me. That's actually what I did. I coughed a little bit. I was like, "Oh shit." I'm like, "Yo, was that Ed Sheeran?" Next thing I know, I see an interview with Ed Sheeran talking about how much he loved the record. He just had to get on a remix. I'm like, what? From there, everything just skyrocketed.
It got put on his deluxe.
I didn't know Ed Sheeran was going to love the record. He loved the way he loved it. And Shizzy was just so happy that he produced a record that, man, it made, I think it's platinum. It's platinum now. It's definitely gold. Definitely RIA gold for sure. But I think it's on its way to platinum, if not platinum already. It's been on Billboard that year of 2020. What does that say? 2021 going to 2022. It was on Billboard for a nice couple of weeks, especially in the top 50.
That's crazy that it's been that long because since you told me the story, I probably listen to that song every day. I'm like, man, when you know the background to a song, it just makes the song that much better. You know what I'm saying?
So every time I hear that line, and it's so funny because as a DJ, I DJ the record. So when I DJ the record, I kind of have a tear that I cry out a little bit. And I'm like, oh, this was my first placement. And I did it without being like attached to like a Sony or cobalt, which made me proud. I was like, okay, I took what I learned and I put it in action. And I was like, okay, I could do this. Like, you know? So I was happy. I was super happy about that. Um, and now fast forward to like 2-3 years later, I'm writing on a song now with Afrobeat that's doing fairly well right now on YouTube. And yeah, the song's called Sexy Sexy.
That you meant to write for Sukihana?
Because Afrobeat and Suki had a relationship, you know? And at the time he told me about it, he was like, yeah, I want you to write, you know, I want a writer's credit. Like I've been doing publishing and placing records for something. Like, I want a writer's credit song, right? Especially something for Suki. You're like, you know, I like Suki. I really like her. So I'm like, okay, bet. I'm writing. He tells me, oh, you know what? We actually like the way your voice sounds on it. We're just gonna keep it. I said, oh, okay. And when I first heard it, I kind of thought it was a joke, so I didn't really like whatever. So then, if he watches this, he's gonna laugh because I really did tell him I thought it was a joke. So then he was like, no, like, we're going to put you on there. Like, this is gonna be me featuring you. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And rest is history. Now the song is doing really well. The video did well out the gate. And the first month it did around 600K, 600,000 views in the first 2 months. And I mean, I've never written a song a day in my life, but I've been around so many good writers and producers. So
Written
I
a
feel
song,
like I was,
let alone sang the song.
yeah, I sang the song. I had a little verse on there, bridge. It was cool. But I tackled it like a DJ because that's the field I know.
So through everything you've done, you've built these relationships, right? Almost these relationships that you've been searching for your whole life. From growing up to trying to find your community in college, you found your community in music. How have you maintained these relationships? Because I think that sometimes that's, again, going back to what I talked about myself, right? You have these people that value you when you have something you can give. How have you navigated that and maintained these relationships in instances where maybe there's not even a work to be done?
I think it's just about communication and building a connection with people, like a genuine connection. You know, I have been in the past, and this is something that I'm actually proud of, that I've been somebody that whenever, for example, if I ever did a gig, right, I would look at the value before I look at the money. So I would look at, okay, if I DJ this gig, maybe they're not paying me my top dollar, but is the value of the relationship worth me doing the gig? If it's not, then I could just leave it alone, or I could just make them give you the top dollar or walk away. If it is, then we have a balance of the scale. I feel like in this industry, it is a people industry. It's a people place. You know what I mean? And relationships are the most valuable thing to have. And I think, well, I know this from experience, that just being human and just having a genuine connection and genuine conversation and connecting people. I talked to Afro V and I hit him, hey brother, how you doing? You good? What you got? What you got going on? Okay, just checking in. You coming in town? Like, you know what I mean? Or I'll be in London, or you know, whatever. Having genuine conversation with people is what makes it worthwhile. I think a lot of people forget about the communication part, the genuine part of just like, oh, how's everything going? You good? You know what I mean? Because a lot of times people will like appreciate that just because it just shows that you care. I mean, hopefully, if you asking this question, you care. You're not asking to get something. But if I daily hit you up like, hey, how you doing? You good? You straight? Okay, cool. Just checking in. I don't want nothing. People take notice of that because everybody wants something from you all the time. So that one person that hits you up, not looking for anything, but just like, oh, okay, just checking in on you. Just making sure you're good. Okay. All right, I'm going to see you next week. Or I'm going to see you whenever. Or, you know, whatever. I think those are the best relationships because now I don't only see you as someone that I do business with or someone that I make music or create with. I can see you as someone that I can actually, you know, bring other people around. It's like a trust that starts to build right there. I can bring other people that are dear to me around you because you're not here just looking for something to latch on to. You're actually someone of value that brings value in different ways. And now I'm bringing now they feel comfortable bringing someone that's close to them value into this circle. A lot of times we're very like timid with like having people be a part of something around us because we don't know what their intentions are. We don't really know if like you check it for me, you looking for me for real, or you want something, So we're real timid, and I mean it's very natural thing to do. It's not necessarily bad, but it's important to notice that that's a thing. You know what I'm saying? So just be genuine, have a real conversation with people. Hey, what you doing? You watched the game last night? What you on? Oh, I saw this. Man, send people memes on Instagram. I don't know, whatever your thing is. But just build a real connection with people versus just, I need something, so I'm going to call you. Because now my view in our relationship is not someone I have built a connection with or I can communicate with, right? Some people really take that to offense too. Like, oh, you only hit me when you need something, so I don't really want to give you anything. Now my relationship with you is that, okay, what's up? What you need? You good? Now the same thing I do to you, you do to me. So if I'm checking in on you, you're gonna check in on me. You know what I'm saying? And now there's a comfortability. There's almost a sense of like respect and a comfortability there. Like I'm not necessarily trusting you 100%, but there's room here for something to grow.
Last question I got for you, because I know it's late, but I do want to touch on it because it's something we talked about on the phone.
Yeah.
So the culture within Chicago is something that I talked about last week with our guests or whenever we recorded it. And he talked about how Chicago is notorious for having gatekeepers.
Oh.
In my opinion, what I said was, were people gatekeeping, or were you just too new in the industry to be let in the gate? And now you have credentials, so now you're good. Now you're valid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a real statement.
I've been doing this. I know where I stand with certain things, and I know when certain things are a reach. Especially when I first started, I couldn't hit up somebody like you, my second podcast, and be like, yo, you want to come on, and expect a yes or even a reply. Am I going to call you a gatekeeper because I'm not valid like that yet?
I can't really say Chicago has gatekeepers because right now, the climate of Chicago, the new generation of talent is coming in and changing the game. And the new generation of talent in all forms, not only musically, but on the media side, right? They're coming in and they're setting the bar so high now that the people who were established older, they either got to step up or move around. You see what I'm saying? So I can't really say in this current climate they're gatekeepers, right? I think that people see gatekeepers as somebody who stops them from having access or whatever because whatever reason. I think it's kind of a twofold situation as well because to your point, in this industry, there's a lot of people. Everybody wants to be a musician, artist, but a lot of people don't put in the time. A lot of people want to be famous, but a lot of people don't put in the time. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people want credibility, but a lot of people don't put in the time. And I think that because fame feels so easy now, right? Let's just be 100, right? Majority of these people right now, no disrespect, majority of musicians and artists right now, right? You can tell who is doing music for the love of the craft. You can tell in their artistry. You can tell by the time they put out, by the work, by the investment they put into their craft. And that's what makes people pay attention, right? You have other people who may or may not understand that. And I'm not saying, shame on them if they don't, because if they don't, they don't. It's something they need to learn. But you have other people who haven't put that much time in at all, or, in that craft, and want the same access as someone who has A-level, A-quality stuff. Is that fair? No. You know what I'm saying? Does it make sense? Not really. I think that people get really heartbroken when they're not a part, especially when they want to be a part, kind of like what we talked about earlier, right? And when you want to be a part of something because you feel like you deserve your spot in this community or in this conversation, right? The only thing you can do is to work. And when you really work, it's really just putting out whatever that thing is to show that what you have makes a difference in this space. I believe a lot of, musicians, I can't say they are coming to and understanding it or they're not. I really don't know. Because even with the climate of music in Chicago, I'll be very transparent. I like how the climate of music is growing right now versus what it was a couple years ago. Because a couple years ago, we didn't really see a lot, right? We saw stuff, and we saw few people here and there, but right now, the the culture of music in Chicago is growing at a rapid pace and at a good pace, at a good quality pace. The people who are meant to shine are shining. The quality is showing itself, and that's what's important. Not to say you're not good quality if you don't show yourself, but quality is always going to beat anything every single time. Just like buying designer versus a knockoff.
Versus Shein.
The quality is going to hit every time. It's going to be worth more value every time. So people can't be so sensitive.
Who would you say you got your eye on right now?
Of course, I like Mello. I really like Mello. I like her lyricism. She is a lyricist, a real lyricist. I haven't heard a female lyricist like that in a long time. So I appreciate how delicate she is with her words, but she hit to the core and she's not holding nothing back. I really like Mello. On the guy side, I really, really, there's someone who's so low key, and I can't wait for the day that he actually like just go 97.
Haven't heard.
I know you haven't heard of him because he's so new, and he's been a writer for a long time, but him as a musician, as a writer, especially on the R&B side, he can be up there with the Brent Fiases of the world. Yes. So those are my top two right now.
Well, I appreciate you coming through. It was an amazing conversation. I can't believe we went for damn near 2 hours, but
I know it.
Shit. You got anything you want to plug real quick?
I'll be DJing Tem's concert soon. I don't know if this video is gonna come up before then, but hey y'all, if you are there, come out and see me. If not, hey, I love you. Come check me out anytime. Follow me NOSIKENRG on the gram and my website, whatever it is, and let that light shine inside you no matter what. I love you.
Make sure you guys go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you go ahead, check out NOSIKE. Sad Boys for real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.